To show my support for the hard work of the Transportation Commissioner, I decided to dress an identical blue tie, white shirt.
Solidarity.
It's hard to tell us apart. And it's good to see that even though I left Rutgers many years ago, things haven't changed. This room is about as warm as every lecture hall I ever had a class in. And I just want to know, Dean, if I can get credit for Professor Giglio's presentation earlier in the afternoon. We've heard very interesting words today from the administration, from my colleague and friend in the Senate, Ray Lesniak, from Professor Giglio, and it is indeed a vexing problem the state faces. We have accumulated a lot of debt. We have a bigger appetite for money than we have the means to pay. In my household, that means we do without, or we get a second job, and that's usually the way of the world. Why are we in a fiscal crisis? Well, the blame goes all around. It's not a fiscal crisis that started last year. It's not a fiscal crisis that started 5 years ago. It's a fiscal crisis that has started many years ago and has been exacerbated piece by piece, incrementally, to the point we're now at where, according to the Treasurer, in the upcoming budget we will have over $2 billion in debt service payments. To also quote the Godfather, how did we ever get so far? Well, we got this place incrementally. Each thing that we did was not so bad. Each piece of debt was not that big. Each item we looked at had a solution down the road, and we will get there when that day comes, but for the moment, we solved the problem. We solved the Transportation Trust Fund a year ago. And there is now money to match federal dollars. We did it the old-fashioned way. We borrowed it. We have to break the cycle that the state seems not able to break, which is to find quick solutions to long-term problems. I want to read you a quote. This person said, "We cannot build a financial future on crumbling, paper-over foundation of recurring fiscal crisis. Too often, for too long, under both parties, fiscal gimmicks have been invented, recycled, and reapplied to mask the realities. Every time we use a gimmick or a trick to pay this year's expenses, all we're doing is making future problems worse." These were the words that our governor spoke a year ago, and I agree with them. I agree with them. Where I disagree is that this is a solution to those problems, because asset monetization, in my view, is a one-shot deal. You get a pile of cash up front, and you get a long-term obligation afterwards. We can call it a lease. We can call it a public-private partnership. It's a long-term obligation of the state of New Jersey that government is not going to pay, but the people who use our road infrastructure are going to pay. The trucking companies are going to pay. The people who ship things through those trucks are going to pay. And it's going to result in costs going up for average people in the state of New Jersey. So that while it's true, an asset monetization, a public-private partnership, or anything like that has the ability to provide to the state a large amount of cash, whether it be $10 billion or $15 billion or $20 billion, it's not free money. It's money that has to be paid back. And it gets paid back by the people of the state who use our transportation infrastructure. And it gets paid back over an extraordinary long time. I have no quibble with the notion that we should pay down our debt. State debt is 30, 35-year debt at the longest. Obviously, we haven't paid the bill. But what we're talking about doing here is paying off that 30 or 35-year debt by incurring a 75 or 99-year obligation, which incurs payments every year by the people who use our roads. If you take the Indiana example, the one article said that the company puts up $4 billion roughly, gets paid back in 15 years. There's 60 years of revenue for them. That concerns me. Another thing concerns me is that, you read about debt counseling, and there's articles in the paper and advertisements on the radio or TV, and usually what they do is they tap the equity in your home, you get a check, and you pay off your credit cards. And you're debt-free, and you've got one consolidated payment, and you free up your cash to make those debt payments because you're not paying as much. Your credit cards are at 21%, you get a home equity loan, maybe you're paying 10 tops. But what they make you do in that program is get a pair of scissors out and cut the credit cards. Because it doesn't make sense to pay off your debt if you still have the ability to incur that very same debt next year and the year after, and then 10 years down the road, you not only have the home equity loan, but you're again maxed out on your credit cards. So what truly troubles me in all of the proposals to do this, while it's good to pay down debt, while it's good to be able to do all these things, there is no proposal to cut up the state's credit card. And it really can't be, because Senator Lesniak and I could sponsor legislation today to do that, and then 5 or 10 years down the road, there's another group of legislators who come in and change that.
That's right.
So I'm concerned about the long-term implications financially for the state. Another thing that concerns me about the public-private partnership, asset monetization, call it what you will, is the enormous time horizon involved. Chicago Skyway lease was 99 years. The Indiana toll road is 75. They're long periods of time. There's no doubt about it. They're so long that I'm not sure that we in government, no matter how many deputy attorney generals you get in a room, no matter how many financial analysts you get in a room, can adequately write into an agreement today that projects and protects the state of New Jersey for 75 years. Department of Transportation has a 5-year capital plan, probably a 10-year capital plan, and if they have a 25-year capital plan, I think the Commissioner would agree it's probably closer to a guess than a reality. What we're talking about here is not having a 25-year capital plan, we're talking about having not a 50-year capital plan, we're talking about having a 75-year capital plan. And why is that relevant? Things have changed dramatically in this country in less than 99 years. 89 years ago, a young lieutenant colonel was given the mission to see if we could defend our country by taking an army convoy from the Atlantic to the Pacific. It took him 60 days. 32 years later, when he was president, he signed the legislation that created the interstate highway system. 50 years later, we have over 41,000 miles of roadway. If a deal was inked to privatize or to monetize or to securitize whatever we had 75 years ago, those roadways today would not be built to the standards that we expect. Look at all the roads that were built during the Roosevelt administration. Nice, flat roads, no slants, no curves, not designed for 70 or 80 miles an hour, certainly not designed for 80,000-pound tractor trailers with 2 or 3 trailers behind them. We couldn't anticipate it back then.